Welcome to Lumify. In this video, we're going to talk about some basic features to get you started quickly. On this screen, you're going to see your dashboard. You're going to see some basic information about total invoices due, how many upcoming events you've got, how many completed events you've done, and some of the revenue figures that might be relevant for your business. In this chart here, you'll see some information about historic revenue, so it'll go back 12 months. And there's also a calendar here which will populate with events once you start adding in events. The first thing that you want to do when you get set up with your Lumify account is to go into the settings and update your business information. You want to make sure that this is all accurate because the information here is what's going to be used to populate invoices and contracts and other areas within Lumify. So you can go ahead and add in an address. Cool. You can go ahead and add your website as well. And you can also add in your Twitter handle, your Facebook handle, and what that does is it'll add a widget to your dashboard. You go back to your dashboard, you'll see that you'll get a little widget there. So once you're happy with your business contact information, the next step is to update your appearance. You can go ahead and add in a logo. You'll see up here, it's the basic Lumify logo, but you can go ahead and update your own. So you can hit that, hit save. And then you'll see that it'll update there automatically. You can also update the colors of different things within Lumify. So you can update the top bar color there, hit save, it'll update right away. You can change the accent color, which is highlighting different sort of important areas throughout Lumify. So you can change that there, something blue, and then you can also change the secondary accent color, which is, you can actually see it down here for this back to top arrow. Hit save. You see that updated right away. The next thing you might want to look at is the billing options. You can set a prefix for your invoices. Some people like to have, INV or I or even full out invoice. That's up to you. You can also choose the starting number for your invoice. So if you're moving over to Lumify from some other software and you've already sent out 500 invoices and you want to start your invoicing at 501, you can go ahead and update that there. You can also set default billing terms. If your normal deposit amount is 50% of the total fees of the event, you can say you got to pay me 50% as a deposit. You can also say that the deposit is due at least 30 days before the event. And you can also say that the total amount due is due 14 days before the event. If you leave that blank or you put 0, the total amount will be due on the day of the event. These default billing terms can be updated for contracts and for invoices. And you can also add in invoice options. You can add a default billing note that could say, thanks for your business. And then the billing footer as well, you can add that as well. These are fields that you can add into your invoice templates, which we'll talk about later. Make sure you hit save. You can also add in default taxes. So if you're in a jurisdiction that requires you to charge tax on certain products or services, you can add that tax here. I live in Cook County in Chicago. So you would put in Cook County, and it's 10.25% for products. The calculate after discounts button is exactly what it says. This tax would be applied after discounts. Whether you check that or not depends on the jurisdiction that you're in. Talk to your accountant. Hit save, and that'll be applied to any new invoices that we create. So then you can go down here. You have some options for client portals. You can choose a couple things here. You can decide whether you want to show the timeline page on the client portal. Some businesses will manage the timeline for the client. And in some cases, you want your client to manage their timeline on their own. So in that case, you can choose whether the client can edit the timeline page. Here, the packages page, we'll see in a later video, but the packages is sort of a showcase of all of the packages and add-ons that you offer. You can choose whether you want to show that or not. Default role. Default role is the role that is applied to users that you invite to Lumify by default. In this case, client portal only is the least privileged role within Lumify. But you can create brand new role. You can make everyone an admin if you want. Really a bad idea, but you can choose what role gets applied to newly invited users. And then the read-only options is when the event has been locked out. This is what the client will see as a message in the client portal, just letting them know that the event is read-only. Cool. You can also configure a custom domain name. That's the option here. There are additional steps here. I would click the link here to read the documentation on how to get that set up. And finally, localization. Currently, Lumify is only available in English. However, we support different English-speaking countries. So you can choose any English-speaking country here. And what will happen is your times, your dates, your currencies will all be formatted in the appropriate format for the country that you choose here. The default is US. You can also choose a currency for any English-speaking country. So you have the British pound, you have South African rand, you have the European euro. You can choose what currency is appropriate here. And then your time zone should be automatically populated. If it's not, you can go ahead and choose your time zone. All right, so the next thing that we want to look at is event types. Event types are a way for you to organize your business and allows you to sort of filter and slice your event list once you start adding more events into Lumify. This default list might be fine for general DJs, but if you're a DJ that focuses specifically on corporate events or weddings, you might want to slim down this list and tailor it specifically to your business. When you click on an event type, you have the option of changing the name of the event type. You can also update the color of the event type, and that'll be reflected in your calendar. It'll show up, any anniversaries will show up as blue. You can also add default playlists that get added to the event when you create a new anniversary. So for example, a really good example of this is for wedding receptions. You might have entrance songs, or you might have special moments, or you might have cocktail hour. And you can be creative with this and decide how you want to organize your playlists. You can also assign default planning forms. We don't have any planning forms created yet, but you can choose, once you start creating planning forms, you can choose whatever planning forms you want and have those automatically be assigned to all wedding receptions. So you might have a wedding planning form that gets assigned there by default. You can also choose a default timeline. And this is really helpful so that you can sort of have a boilerplate that your clients can go in and edit if they need to. If you put in negative times in the time offset column, that'll be before the event start time. If you put in positive time, so for example, 0.5, that'll be event start time plus half an hour. And you can go to any divisions of an hour, up to 0.05 or 0.15, and you can kind of be creative there. And finally, notes. Notes are helpful for keeping checklists, for example. So you can go in here and you can add a to-do list for any things that you need to make sure that you do before the event. So you can say event rentals or song requests or review planning forms, right? And as you check those off, you can keep track of what's done and what's not done. And so you can set this up to add to any new wedding receptions by default. What you'll see here is a merge field. Company name is a standard merge field that applies across Lumify. You can use that across Lumify. There are some other event merge fields that you can use here as well. For example, you can do event title. So you can say notes for event title here. You can put in parentheses wedding reception by company name. You hit save there. And so that's event types. The next thing you might want to look at is event packages. Event packages are exactly what they are. They're packages that you can sell to your clients. You can change the name of the event package. You can add a cost. You can also choose whether the event package is taxable. You can add a description, and you can also add in features for your event package. And then you can also limit event packages specifically to types of events. So you can say, for example, the golden wedding package is only available for wedding receptions, and you can hit save. And so you might have a birthday package or a engagement package, and have different types of packages that are associated with different types of events. All right, now we have event add-ons. So event add-ons are items that you can add on to an event, and you can also limit these to types of packages. So for example, a photo booth add-on, maybe you only offer photo booths for weddings. So you can choose to limit the photo booth add-on only to the gold wedding package, or any sort of package that you might have that you want to associate photo booths with. And you can also choose whether add-ons are taxable or not. And finally, you have event statuses. Event statuses are a good way to help organize, kind of like your event types. But event statuses allow you to, at a quick glance, see where the event is in the selling process. So for example, if you have a brand new lead, you might have them listed as a prospect. If you are waiting on a client to sign a contract, you might move them to pending. If you've confirmed they have a signed contract and they've paid you deposit, you can move them over to confirmed. If the client canceled on the event or chose not to go with you, you can either go canceled or lost. You can also color code these as well. By default, they already have sensible colors, but you can add new statuses if you really wanted to. But you can also modify the existing statuses here as well. So for example, instead of prospect, you can say lead. And that just depends on the way that you operate your business. So finally, let's go ahead and take a look at what creating an event looks like. Let's create our first event. So to do that, you can go to the events page. To create a new event, you click the three little dots right here, and you hit create event. All right, so the first thing you need to add is an event title. You can say Smith Wedding. Then you can choose an event type. You can do wedding reception. Then you can choose a status. You can also leave status blank. By default, if you create an event with a blank event status, it'll default to the first status that you have, usually lead. It's sort of sensible, but you can leave that blank as well. You can choose a date. You can choose a date for the event. You can say October 28th. Choose a time. You can say, the ceremony starts at 10 a.m. And you're going to be there all day because there's a reception as well. So I'm going to 12 a.m. Oh, got to change that over to 12 a.m. Cool. There's 200 guests. You can choose a location. So you can type in, let's do something here in Chicago. Really neat thing here about the location builder is it'll try and guess what the location that you're choosing is. So in this case, we typed in Cindy's rooftop, and it it actually got it correct. It's 12 South Michigan Avenue, which is here in Michigan. On Michigan Avenue here in Chicago. But you can change this to something else as well. So you can say Chicago Cultural Center, and it's using Google Maps, the autocomplete options from Google Maps to sort of pre-populate this. So if you click that, it'll update the address to the Chicago Cultural Center. So hit save. And now you can choose the package as well. So you can choose the gold wedding package, the one that we just created. And then you can also do an add-on. Something to note here is you can add multiple add-ons. There's probably a very limited set of circumstances that will lead someone to have 2 photo booths. But you can imagine, maybe you have uplights or draping and you want to charge them multiple times for that add-on. Something else I want to add here for packages and add-ons, you've pre-configured the package cost on the event options page. We just did that. You also did the same thing for add-ons, but you can always override the package cost and the add-on cost. So you can go in here and say, you know what, in this case, I have to drive far to get here, so I'm going to add an extra $500 to this, and you hit save, and that'll update the package cost. Same thing with the add-ons. You can say, well, for the photo booth here, it's not going to be a ton of extra work, so I'm going to give them a $25 discount, $300. You could save that, and that'll override the cost of the package of the add-on. Also note here that we created some the event type default that we had for wedding receptions. We put in the event title field and company name, and you'll see that populated here, which is really nice. Cool. So now we should add some contacts. So let's add our first contact. Let's create a new person. Let's say Mary Smith is getting married. So let's add Mary Smith. We have to include an email. So let's say msmith@example.net and hit save. And let's make her a client. Cool. Now you also have the option of inviting her to the client portal. When you click send invite email, it'll send an email to Mary with a link that you can click. And with that link, it'll automatically log her into the client portal. Cool. You'll also see here that the event type default that we set up for wedding receptions populated a timeline. And you'll see that the timeline is based on the event start time. So we had -1 for event setup. And because the event start time is 10 a.m., it automatically populated 9 a.m. for the event start time. The event setup time. But you can always update this later. Let's say you have a bigger package for this one and you need to get there a little bit early. You can always update that manually and override that. Cool. So that's our first event. And this is just a really basic intro into getting started with Lumify. There's other videos that you can take a look at. Feel free to subscribe to us. We're posting new tutorials and videos all the time. We plan to keep posting more in the future. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.